What's happening, guys and girls? Acrinator here, and welcome to another episode of World of Warcraft Dungeon Overview. This episode will be continuing on with our adventure through the sand dunes of Uldum, this time traversing through the lost city of the Tol'vir. I'll be guiding you through it with my demon hunter you see here, so with that being said, let's dive straight into it. In our questing experience through Uldum, we've come across two different factions of the Tol'vir, a cat-like being found only in these deserts. The Ramkahen, who've ruled the majority of these lands for centuries, have taken a liking to us adventurers who've proven willing to help them out in their fight against Alechyr the Windlord. The main antagonists we'll be facing for this dungeon are the other half of the Tol'vir, the Neferset. Like many other races found throughout Azeroth, the Tol'vir were once creations of the Titans, made of stone and clay in order to aid the planet in the fight against the old gods. Over time, the curse of flesh withered away at their rock-hard defenses, and made many of the Titans' minions mortal. This includes the likes of the gnomes, Vrykul, dwarves, and even the Tol'vir. While the Ramkahen eventually became content with their state of being, and began to live their lives as the mortals they had become, the Neferset never truly let go of the past. For millennia, they've yearned to go back to the way things once were, to relinquish their weakened flesh for that of stone yet again. Conveniently enough for the southern recluses, Deathwing had the power and willingness to assist all those that would aid him in his quest to destroy the world. By pledging themselves to the Mad Dragon, the Neferset were made whole again, giving them the power they've desired to reclaim the entirety of Uldum for themselves. With what they've wanted for so long finally given to them on a silver platter, they had no further use for the dark magics of the Twilight's Hammer and turned on Deathwing's forces. The Neferset expelled all outsiders from their domain and imprisoned the Lord of the South Winds, Tiamat, to siphon his power for their shaman. While we no longer have to worry about Deathwing gaining a literal army in these Tol'vir, we cannot allow the allies we've found in the Ramkahen to be wiped out, and so it is still a problem we must face head-on. We've already assaulted the Neferset capital city and dismantled most of their army through the standard questing experience, though one stronghold still remains. Of course, it's the one where they keep the ancient air elemental, so you can imagine their defenses are going to be top-notch, but that's never stopped us from besieging cities before. The lost city of the Tol'vir is a level 85 dungeon with a heroic mode located in the central southern portion of Uldum. Getting to this instance is pretty simple itself, because you just need to follow the one river in the entire zone down to the coast, and there you'll find the lost city nestled within the delta on the shore. There aren't really any flight points close enough for me to walk there and show you. However, if you start from Ramkahen and work your way down the river, there's literally no way you can miss it. I do realize that I'm flying for this video, but that's just to save time and not have to speed up the footage by like 10 times just to make it fit with my audio. The same principles apply when using your ground mount, however. You'll just have to worry about any potential trash mobs hanging around the river's shores, though these shouldn't give you too much trouble even if you're traveling alone. Hussam is one of the most ancient and strongest warriors among the entire race of the Tol'vir. The Titans themselves appointed him as the head guardian of Uldum's facilities, back before he and his people were afflicted with the Curse of the Flesh. It's unclear for how long the Tol'vir are capable of living with the Curse of Flesh, or how Hussam managed to remain in a seat of power for millennia. What we do know is that this fearsome combatant took charge of the Neferset's armies once the trap for Tiamat was laid. First things first, you want to take out the trash mobs in the surrounding area around the boss, especially the Oathsworn captains, since they can really pack a punch that you shouldn't have to deal with during a boss encounter. For the actual boss mechanics you want to look out for, you want to keep an eye out for an ability called Shockwave. The boss will take a while to cast this, so there's your one saving grace. You'll notice there's 4 lines marked out on the ground randomly directed around the boss. Don't stand on top of these. In a few seconds time, earth spikes will erupt from them, dealing tons of damage to anyone dumb enough to not move in time. The next big ability to deal with is called Mystic Trap, which is basically a landmine that is sent to the location of 3 random players and takes 2 seconds to arm itself. That's your chance to get out of this trap's range, since they deal a nasty amount of damage to everyone nearby if they detonate. In heroic difficulty, the boss will automatically detonate every active trap at once, giving you only 5 seconds to get out of the range of literally everything. This is when you'll ideally pop either your movement cooldowns or your survival cooldowns if you can't get out of range fast enough. The best thing to do for this fight is to just burst the boss down as quickly as possible to avoid as many mines being placed as possible. Despite the Ramkahen and Neferset taking control of the vast majority of Uldum sand dunes, the Tol'vir aren't the only race to inhabit these deserts. As we learn at the very beginning of the Uldum questing experience, savage pygmies also roam the land in small caravans. These tribes of midgets are used to looting, pillaging, and slaving to make a living off of the black market in this corner of the world. In this case, a pygmy called Og leads his people alongside his pet Krakalisk, Lockmaw. The two are a hell of a lot of trouble to deal with, especially considering they've taken to the Neferset's unguarded treasure cache amidst all the commotion of trapping Tiamat. If we want extra loot, we're gonna have to face these annoying little bastards, and one angry croc. Right after making it out of the official walls of the city and onto the mudflats, you'll see Og standing there waiting for you to arrive. Just burst him down without using any of your cooldowns, since this isn't the real fight yet. Once he gets down to 1 health, he'll use a smoke bomb to escape, and you'll notice Lockmaw standing in front of the treasury a bit further down the road. That's where the real fight will take place. On normal difficulty, this fight is actually insanely easy, since you just have to fight the croc, and not Og. The main thing to look out for is that Lockmaw will periodically damage players in front of and behind him, meaning that everyone besides the tank should stand to the side of the boss. What's more is that Crocolith's trash mobs will join the fight on occasion, though these aren't of much consequence, so just AoE them down and you should be fine. The more annoying ad to worry about is actually Og, as he'll randomly jump in to deal some damage before disappearing again. The tricky part is that Og is invulnerable to damage while Lockmaw is alive, and you only fight Og as a true boss in Heroic. In Normal, the fight just ends after killing the croc. On that note, you'll also want to burst Lockmaw down once it reaches 30% health, because he enrages and has a nasty increase in damage until he's dead. As for Og himself, there's only a few positional abilities to worry about. Basically, don't stand near him if you're not a meleeer, and don't stand in front of him when he's casting Dragon's Breath so you don't get stunned. While General Hassam leads the warriors into battle, High Prophet Barum is regarded as the spiritual leader to the Neferset of the Lost City. He, alongside his fellow magic users, utilize powerful dark magics to trap the Lord of the South Winds within the city, giving them an effectively infinite power supply of raw elemental energy. This fight is probably the most difficult in the entire dungeon, though it's not impossible if you can manage to focus your fire appropriately. Barum has 2 phases to this fight, the first of which is pretty standard. There's a disease that healers will want to cleanse off of anyone who catches it, and a trash mob that needs to be dealt with. Unfortunately, this isn't your standard trash mob. Instead, it's a phoenix that turns into an egg after it's killed. The trouble is that after 20 seconds, if allowed to survive that long, the egg will hatch and respawn the phoenix that you just killed. So be sure to kill the damn egg quickly. Stage 2 starts once the boss reaches 50% health, where he'll stun all players for a few seconds and bring you into the Shadow Realm. A dark phoenix will spawn, dealing massive amounts of damage just for existing. What's worse is that this pseudo-boss will cast Soul Sever on a random player, forming a soul fragment from them that will begin to move towards the boss. If the fragment reaches the phoenix, it drastically increases the damage it deals and makes it a hell of a lot harder to kill. Oh, and did I mention it also heals the bastard? Seriously, don't let the soul fragments touch the damn phoenix. Just pop all of your cooldowns and kill the dark phoenix to return back to phase 1. From there, the fight effectively turns into a tank and spank, comparatively at least. As I've covered all throughout this episode and last episode, the Lord of the South Winds and member of Alakir's Conclave of Wind, Tiamat, was lured to the lost city of the Tol'vir under the guise of aiding fellow minions of Deathwing in the pursuit of controlling the halls of origination for the Black Dragon aspect. What he did not expect was for the Neferset to turn on him once he freed them of their curse of the flesh, subsequently trapping him in the city. While his absence from the Conclave has caused ripples throughout the inner politics of Skywall, the potential uses the Neferset could come up with for an elemental battery such as Tiamat bodes even less well. While we've dealt with the leaders of the antagonizing Tol'vir and freed the Lord of the South Wind, we now have a very pissed off, powerful air elemental who's ready to lash out at just about anything that moves. We've already seen what destruction can be brought about when you combined powerful winds with desert sands previously in the Uldum questing experience, so we obviously can't allow this to go on unchecked. After defeating the High Prophet, you'll see the giant building in the center of the city get its roof blown off, and Tiamat will be the only thing standing on the new rooftop. In order to get up to the boss arena, just go over to one of the 2 wind tunnels nearby and click on them, similar to how the slipstreams worked in the Vortex Pinnacle. Just like the last fight, this encounter also has multiple phases. For the first phase, you'll be fighting trash mobs rather than the boss himself, and only after defeating 3 servants of Tiamat will phase 2 start. I would like to note there is a difference between minions and servants of Tiamat, since only killing the servants will progress you any further. These mobs will spawn once every 45 seconds, or as soon as the previous one dies, whichever comes first. It is also important to realize that the boss will be casting spells at you throughout the entire first phase, despite the fact that he can't take any damage. Just dodge any attacks you can and you should be able to survive. Thankfully, stage 2 is relatively simple, since there's nothing really that you can do to avoid most of these abilities. Just burst the boss down, collect your loot, and relish in the fact that you just burned an entire Oasis city to the ground in a matter of minutes. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more like it, maybe even subscribe. Links to my social media and whatnot are in the description below, and as for with a comment question. How do you think the Neferset such as General Hussam and High Prophet Barum have managed to live for so long despite contracting the curse of the flesh? There's very few races that we know about that can live for hundreds of years without some sort of enchantment allowing for their immortality, such as the Night Elves, but the Tol'vir don't have any such abilities to my knowledge. Maybe they've just managed to live an exceedingly healthy lifestyle up to this point to avoid all ailments that could end their lives prematurely. Anyways, that's all the time I've got for today, so until next time, don't die.